The Third Man by Graham Greene, 7. As I see it, turning over my files, the notes of conversations, the statements of various characters, it would have been still possible at this moment for Rollo Martins to have left Vienna safely. He had shown an unhealthy curiosity, but the disease had been checked at every point. Nobody had given anything away. The smooth wall of deception had as yet shown no real crack to his roaming fingers. When Rollo Martin left Dr. Winkler's, he was in no danger. He could have gone home to bed at Soccer's and slept with a quiet mind. He could even have visited Cooler at this stage without trouble. No one was seriously disturbed, unfortunately for him, and there would always be periods of his life when he bitterly regretted it. He chose to go back to Harry's flat. He wanted to talk to the little vexed man who said he had seen the accident. Or had he really not said so much? There was a moment in the dark frozen street when he was inclined to go straight to Cooler, to complete his picture of those sinister birds who sat around Harry's body. But Rollo, being Rollo, decided to toss a coin, and the coin fell for the other action, and the deaths of two men. Perhaps the little man, who bore the name of Koch, Koch, had drunk a glass too much of wine. Perhaps he had simply spent a good day at the office. But this time, when Rollo Martins rang his bell, he was friendly and quite ready to talk. He had just finished dinner and had crumbs on his mustache. "Ah, I remember you. You are Herr Lime's friend." He welcomed Martins in with great cordiality and introduced him to a mountainous wife, whom he obviously kept under very strict control. "Oh, in the old days, I would have offered you a cup of coffee, but now—" Martins passed round his cigarette case with the atmosphere of cordiality deepened. "When you came yesterday, I was a little abrupt," Herr Koch said, but I had a touch of migraine and my wife was out, so I had to answer the door myself." "Did you tell me you had actually seen the accident?" Herr Koch exchanged glances with his wife. "The inquest is over, Ilse. There is no harm. You can trust my judgment. The gentleman is a friend. Yes, I saw the accident, but you are the only one who knows. When I say that I saw it, perhaps I should say that I heard it. I heard the brakes put on and the sound of the skid, and I got to the window in time to see them carry the body to the house." "But you didn't give evidence." "It is better not to be mixed up in such things. My office cannot spare me. We are short of staff, and of course I did not actually see." "But you told me yesterday how it happened." "That was how they described it in the papers." "Was he in great pain?" "He was dead. I looked right down from my window here, and I saw his face. I know when a man is dead, you see. It is, in a way, my business. I am the head clerk at the mortuary." "But the others say that he did not die at once." "Perhaps they don't know death as well as I do." "He was dead, of course, when the doctor arrived. He told me that." "He was dead at once. You can take the word of a man who knows. I think, Herr Koch, that you should have given evidence." "One must look after oneself, Herr Martins. I was not the only one who should have been there." "What do you mean?" "There were 3 people who helped to carry your friend to the house." "I know, 2 men and the driver." "The driver stayed where he was. He was very much shaken, poor man." 3 men. It was as though suddenly, fingering that bare wall, his fingers had encountered not so much a crack, perhaps, but at least a roughness that had not been smoothed away by the careful builders. "Can you describe the men?" But Herr Koch was not trained to observe the living. Only the man with the toupee had attracted his eye. The other 2 were just men, neither tall nor short, thick nor thin. He had seen them from far above, foreshortened, bent over their burden. They had not looked up, and he had quickly looked away and closed the window, realizing at once the wisdom of not being seen himself. "There was no evidence I could really give, Herr Martins." No evidence, Martin thought, no evidence. He no longer doubted that murder had been done. Why else had they lied about the moment of death? They wanted to quieten their gifts of money and their plane ticket. The only two friends Harry had in Vienna. And the third man, who was he? He said, "Did you see Herr Lime go out?" "No." "Did you hear a scream?" "Only the brakes, Herr Martens." It occurred to Martens that there was nothing except the word of Kurtz and Cooler and the driver to prove that in fact Harry had been killed at that precise moment. There was the medical evidence, but that could not prove more than that he had died, say, within a half hour. In any case, the medical evidence was only as strong as Dr. Winkler's word, the clean, controlled man creaking among his crucifixes. "Herr Martens, it just occurs to me, you are staying in Vienna." "Yes. If you need accommodations and spoke to the authorities quickly, you might secure Herr Lime's flat. It is a requisitioned property." "Who has the keys?" "I have them." "Could I see the flat?" "Ilse, the keys." Herr Koch led the way into the flat that had been Harry's. In a little dark hall, there was still the smell of cigarette smoke, the Turkish cigarettes that Harry always smoked. It seemed odd that a man's smell should cling in the folds of a curtain so long after the man himself had become dead matter, a gas, a decay. One light in a heavy beaded shade left them in semi-darkness, fumbling for door handles. The living room was completely bare. It seemed to Martens too bare. The chairs had been pushed up against the walls. The desk at which Harry must have written was free from dust or any paper. The parquet reflected the light like a mirror. Herr Koch opened a door and showed the bedroom. The bed neatly made with clean sheets. In the bathroom, not even a used razor blade indicated that a few days ago a living man had occupied it. Only the dark hall and the cigarette smell gave a sense of occupation. "You see," Herr Koch said, "it is really quite like a newcomer. It is quite ready for a newcomer. Ilse has cleaned up." That she certainly had. After a death, there should have been more litter left than this. A man can't go suddenly and unexpectedly on his longest journey without forgetting this or that, without leaving a bill unpaid, an official form unanswered, the photograph of a girl. "Were there no papers, Herr Koch?" "Herr Lime was always a very tidy man. His waste paper basket was full and his briefcase, but his friend fetched them away." His friend? The gentleman with the toupee? It was possible, of course, that Lime had not taken the journey so unexpectedly, and it occurred to Martens that Lime had perhaps hoped he would arrive in time to help. He said to Herr Koch, "I believe my friend was murdered." "Murdered!" Herr Koch's cordiality was snuffed out by the word he said. "I would not have asked you in here if I had thought you would talk such nonsense." "Why should it be nonsense? We do not have murderers in this zone." "All the same, your evidence may be very valuable." "I have no evidence. I saw nothing. I am not concerned. You must leave here at once, please. You have been very inconsiderate." He hustled Martens back to the hall. Already the smell of the smoke was fading a little more. Herr Koch's last words before he slammed his own door was, "It is no concern of mine." Poor Herr Koch. We do not choose our concerns. Later, when I was questioning Martens closely, I said to him, "Didn't you see anybody at all on the stairs or in the street outside?" Later, when I was questioning Martens closely, I said to him, "Did you see anybody at all on the stairs or in the street outside?" "Nobody." He had everything to gain by remembering some chance passerby, and I believed him. He said, "I noticed myself how quiet and dead the whole street looked. Part of it had been bombed, you know, and the moon was shining on the snow slopes. It was so very silent I could hear my own feet creaking in the snow." Of course, it proves nothing. There is a basement where anybody who had followed you could have hidden. Yes. Or your whole story may be phony. Yes. The trouble is, I can see no motive for you to have done it. It's true you are already guilty of getting money on false pretenses. You came out here to join Lime, perhaps to help him. Martens said to me, "What was this precious racket you keep hinting at?" I told I'd have told you all the facts when I first saw you if you hadn't lost your temper so damn quickly. Now I don't think I shall be acting wisely to tell you. It would be disclosing official information, and your contacts, don't inspire confidence. A girl with phony papers supplied by Lyme, this man Kurtz. Dr. Winkler, I've got nothing against Dr. Winkler. No, if you're phony, you don't need the information. But it might help you to learn exactly what we know, you see. Our facts are not complete. I bet they aren't. I could invent a better detective than you in my bath. Your literary style does not do your namesake justice. Whenever he was reminded of Mr. Crabbin, that poor harassed representative of the British Council, Rollo Martins turned pink, with annoyance, embarrassment, shame. That too inclined me to trust him. He had certainly given Crabbin some uncomfortable hours. On returning to Sacher's hotel after his interview with Herr Koch, he had found a desperate note waiting for him from the representative. I have been trying to locate you all day, Crabbin wrote. It is essential that we should get together and work out a proper program for you. This morning by telephone I have arranged lectures at Innsbruck and Salzburg for next week, but I must have your consent on the subjects, so that proper programs can be printed. I would suggest 2 lectures. The Crisis of Faith in the Western World. You are very respected here as a Christian writer, but this lecture should be quite unpolitical, and no reference should be made to Russia or communism, and the technique of the contemporary novel. The same lectures would be given in Vienna. Apart from this, there are a great many people here who would like to meet you, and I want to arrange a cocktail party for early next week. But for all this, I must have a few words with you. The letter enclosed a note of acute anxiety. Will you be at the discussion tomorrow? You will be at the discussion tomorrow night, won't you? We all expect you at 8:30, and needless to say, look forward to your coming. I will send transport to your hotel at 8:15 sharp. Rollo Martins read the letter, and without bothering any further about Mr. Crabbin, went to bed. And that is the end of the 7th part.